Hello everyone. In this video we're going to go ahead and create the upper body controls. So we are going to start by creating it doesn't matter which tab you're in, we're just going to go to the Create, NURBS, Circle. It'll create a circle, as you can see, and these will be our controllers. So I'm going to start just by scaling it to size. You can scale it however you'd like. I like to keep mine really easy to grab because we'll be animating with these later. And I'm going to start by you're going to snap this joint, or this controller, and we're going to snap it directly here to our root. One of the things I like to do, I hold right click and go to Control Vertex, and I like to give my root control a little bit variation in terms of shape and size. So when I'm working with it, I know easily that this is my root controller. I just slightly shifted the sides up and the front and back up to give it a little bit of a wave to it, and now I know visually very easily that this is going to be my root control. And I name these root underscore CTRL, root control. So that's sort of my prefix or suffix or whatever, or extension, whatever you want to call it, to my controllers. Just like with the joints, I did JNT. Whoop. And I can call this okay. So now I've got my root control. Now I'm going to do another Create, NURBS, Circle. I'm going to snap this one to the waist. Now if you're having difficulty seeing the joints, just increase the joint size 0.2, and now you'll be able to see them a little bit easier. And again, we're just going to snap these into place, and I'm going to make this one slightly larger, something like so. Call this waist CTRL. And then the other thing we want to do, you can do this at the end or while you're working, is we're going to do modify and freeze transformations, and just make sure you zero those out. The next thing we're going to do is I'm just going to duplicate these as I go now and start to snap them into place, and that will be my spine 1 CTRL. Okay, and I'm going to duplicate and spine 2 CTRL, and then one more time I'm going to go to my chest, and I'm going to scale this one larger, obviously, because it needs to be. And then the other thing I like to do is going in, holding right, Control Vertex. In this particular case, I'm going to hit 4 so I can see my control vertices inside the mesh, and I'm going to just simply bring these down, and that's going to be basically my chest controller. And press 5 to make sure, and I think that's pretty good. And we'll do chest CTRL, and always can do modify freeze transformations. Again, you can do this as you work. I think it's easier to do it as you're going through it, because this way you'll maybe not forget or miss one as you are working on it. Now I can duplicate these and then snap these into place, and this one is going to be my clav control, and I'm going to rotate and scale down. And just like previously, control vertex, I'm going to just sort of move it around the mesh as needed. Alright, and then down here, grab 1, 2, and 3, and just simply sort of drag that out. So now I have that as my L-clav CTRL. Now, I'm going to get into showing you how to, and then I'm going to do modify and freeze transformations. Basically mirror these later. You can also do a modify center pivot. It's not absolutely necessary as long as your anchor point is directly on that point. And then as we use this, it'll just work like so later on. But I'm going to show you how to mirror these after I do the entire arm. Alright. So I'm going to create another one for the shoulder. And I'm going to scale this one down. Alright. Again, you can always make these however you need it to be around your mesh in case you have some... Oop, meant to use W. Bring that down. And then I may even bring this in just slightly. Just grabbing some of these control vertex and just sort of making it wrap around my mesh a little bit easier. I'd say that's pretty good. I'll bring this one in slightly. Maybe both of these in very slightly. And that's going to be my L shoulder CTRL. And modify freeze transformations. And again, we'll go to the elbow and rotate and then scale down. Oop, make sure you get it right on the joint. Okay, there we go. That's probably pretty good. If I like, I could always grab some of these control vertices and just sort of drag that out. And basically all I'm doing when I do this is I'm just trying to make sure that it's easy to grab when animating. That's really all it is. Okay. L, elbow, CTRL. And I'm just duplicating. You can do create NURB circle again. And I'm just trying to snap it directly onto that joint. And it is very important that your pivot point or anchor point or whatever you would like to call it is snapped holding D and V, by the way, if you don't already know that. We've gone over it many times. And just making sure that it's snapped directly onto the joint itself. Alright, and this will be my L wrist CTRL. Alright, I'm also going to do modify freeze transformations on all of these. Okay. And here's sort of the tricky part, I guess you could say. You can duplicate, Control D, I scale -1, and then just snap it onto the joint. And make sure. Now these don't, you can't just run a mirror like you do with the other like you do with the joints. So just holding V, not D, just V, and do R, and then make sure you rename. Like mirroring the joints, you can't just do a search and find and replace this. You have to do manually. Okay, and then Control D, scale X -1, and just snap that into place. And for the most part, it's only the ones that you need to scale at -1 are the ones where you kind of play around with the control vertices. Modify, freeze transformations. Ooh, there we go. And we're going to make this R, shoulder control. Alright, Control D, scale -1, and snap to the elbow over here. The elbow joint, that is. Okay, and this is going to be R, elbow control. And this one I didn't play around with any of the vertices, but you could always just snap it into place again, and if you're not sure, scale -1, just in case, never know. And then modify, freeze transformations. And that should just basically about do it. Oop. Now the other thing I need to do is I'm going to create a neck controller. Control D. I'm going to snap this onto the neck. Alright. And then, using my control vertex, that does not look like it's snapped properly. Yeah, not. Okay. And now I'm going to first I'll scale it down because I don't need it to be that large. I could even run a rotate on it. And actually that's pretty good. I think I'm going to stick with that. And then I'll do modify, freeze transformations, and call it neck CTRL. Alright. There is also one more I like to create, and I might as well do it now. I'm going to create the head control. So there's the neck control and the head control. Later on, that you'll notice they pretty much act the same. However, they do have subtle differences, and this is just an easy way to go ahead and connect some facial animations later. And what I do here, and I'm also going to scale this down. Oh. What I typically do here, and maybe I'll bring these in. And these in also. Oop, wrong one. I'd say that's pretty good. Alright, so there's my, what I call my head control. And those are all of our controllers that we need to create. Just make sure you've named them all, and freeze transformations, and be sure that you did it to every single one. And it's extremely important that you freeze transformations, especially for the next video we're going to do. So that's all I have on creating the upper body controls. Pretty simple. Just make sure they're named correctly, frozen transformations, snapped exactly onto the joint, and you're good to go. So thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and stay tuned for the next one.